I'm Greg Galdabini with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here with Alex Brill, a research fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. We're talking about the U.S. debt. The debt currently today is at $16.8 trillion, that's T. And, you know, at that level, what is really the best way to characterize the debt in a way that ordinary Americans can understand?
Really important question. When the debt is as large as it is, trillions of dollars in accumulated debt, we're borrowing over $1 trillion every year for the last 4 years in a row. It's very difficult to relate the numbers that large to the individual. One way to try to conceptualize the magnitude of the amount of federal borrowing that's occurred, it's related to a household. So, for example, the federal government owing $16 trillion. Think of your own home if you're a homeowner, and if you made $100,000 a year. If you were prudent and responsible, you might buy a house that's in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. The federal government, if we think in terms of that same perspective, it's like they bought a house that's over $1.25 million. Wow. So they're living in it well beyond their means. It's becoming increasingly difficult for them to make those payments. Of course, in the world that we're operating in right now, interest rates are very low. It's actually a great time to buy a home because we can get low mortgage interest rates. Same thing for the government. The government's able to borrow at very low interest rates, but they're borrowing huge amounts of money for very long periods of time. And when interest rates start to rise and that debt turns over, those interest costs are going to become increasingly more significant.
There has been some recent good news about the debt. Tax receipts are a little bit higher than expected in recent months, and we actually saw a surplus, I believe, in April. How does this news sort of change the long-term trajectory of the debt problem we're talking about?
Yeah, we definitely have seen good news of late. Both federal spending is down just slightly in this portion of the fiscal year relative to a year ago, and tax receipts are on their way up. It's in part due to the tax increases that we saw at the beginning of the year, the expiration of the payroll tax cut that affects basically every worker, and higher income tax rates on those who earn more than, say, $400,000 a year. But there are other reasons that are driving revenues up as well. The economy is growing. The stock market's doing very well. Corporate profits are up. And so we've seen some surprising good news. But the biggest challenges that face this country from a fiscal perspective are not this year, this quarter, or next year, or next month. It's really out about a decade from now. The challenges result from the programs that we operate in the entitlement space, Social Security and Medicare. Those programs are fundamentally not on solid footing. The expected growth rates of Medicare, for example, is faster than the overall economy. We know in Social Security that the amount that we're going to owe future retirees is in excess of the revenues that we're going to be collecting to fund that program. Those programs, because they're not stable, regardless of how well we do in the economy this quarter or this year, we're going to need to make fundamental changes to how they operate in order to contain the long-term debt, the outlook that we face.
Yeah, big challenges. I hope our elected officials can tackle them. So thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
Sure, my pleasure.